Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. Thanks for joining us, everyone, today at our FS Show and Tell, the last one of 2022. Hard to believe. Seems like we were just here doing the December one not too long ago. Thank you for those of you who have joined us all year long for these really great monthly webinars that we do. For anyone that maybe is new here, which I'm sure there are some, this is an amazing webinar that we are so proud of. We do it monthly. We open it up to our entire global community. And it's just a chance for a small selection of some of our global team to come together and share what is currently inspiring us. Every meeting is very different, very free flowing. We will, of course, share the recording with you as well as the links later this week. So don't feel the need to jot everything down. We will have them here for you. Also, you can find not only this month's, but all the previous month's show and tells on our YouTube channel, as well as on our Fashion Snoops website for those of you who are clients. So just a few housekeeping things to go through. As always, we want to hear from you during today's webinar. Please use the chat box to your advantage. Let us know what you love. If you have any questions, our team will also share some links for you. If anything comes up, just please be sure to choose everyone in the pull down so that both panelists and attendees can see your comments or questions. And then we just wanted to announce that starting in January, we're going to move this webinar 1 hour earlier. So just please take note of that. And this is just to accommodate more of our friends in the UK and in Europe so they can join at a more reasonable hour for their workday. So we will be doing this webinar the first Wednesday of every month, as always, but 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. GMT. And that will be on Wednesday, January 4th. So right after New Year's, we'll get the week or get the new year going with a show and tell. So please just remember that. We'll remind you as we send out reminders in the new year. All right, I'm gonna just bring up our links for today. We have some really great ones to end the year on. There's definitely an interesting little undercurrent that I noticed on some of the links as I went through them today. And I think Mallory is actually gonna get it kicked off for us today. Hey, Mallory.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mallory. I'm a senior strategist for beauty and wellness. And at the end of this year, for some reason, I'm just really gravitating towards, themes of like mildly disturbing auras. So the first link theme that I'm going to share is about the back rooms. And I first became aware of the back rooms sort of saga like theory when there was a YouTuber who I watch who makes models, and one of them was inspired by the back rooms. And it's basically, if you're unfamiliar with the back rooms, we'll watch a few clips, but just an intro explanation. The backrooms is this fascinating intersection of kind of a collective theory, collective world building, and also this idea of kind of surrealism and the disturbing aura of kind of liminal spaces and ordinary spaces. And so essentially, it's this theory that this universe called the backrooms exists if you quote unquote no clip, which according to the mythology of the backrooms means you essentially enter another realm. Like you could just literally walk through a wall or fall through a floor and you've somehow clipped out of our reality and into this other never ending or seemingly never ending reality. And, users across TikTok, YouTube, creepypasta Reddit have gotten really, really into the mythology of the backrooms. They have created different levels because this is all part of the mythology of the backrooms, that there are different levels which have different aesthetics, different themes, who is in the back rooms, which a common theme are these men in yellow hazmat suits, which are called the hazmen. And also there are very many like creatures that are ominous and threatening in the back rooms. So it's definitely combining a bit of like gaming, a bit of like RPG. Everyone remembers all those creepy levels and games that we used to play. There was one Tomb Raider level I used to play that was very backrooms-esque that creeped me out. And so, yeah, it's also kind of that urban legend mythology. So if you want to go to some of the clips, I included some TikTok links. So if you want to go to the first one, it's kind of a explanation of what backrooms is.
What are the backrooms? The backrooms are alleged to be a terrifying alternate dimension that people end up in when they no-clip or glitch out of reality. Upon glitching into the backrooms, you'll find 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms. Nothing but the stink of moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, and the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz. If you hear something moving, run, because that something probably heard you as well. In order to get out, it's said you have to complete a series of levels, which test you to an impossible standard. Which is why the only thing for sure is that once you've entered the backrooms, it's unlikely you're getting out. With all this talk, many people are wondering, what are the backrooms?
And so if you want to go to the other two clips, it's kind of like imaginings of what different backroom levels are. And you can see as you play this one, it's kind of a combination of this very unsettling, disturbing funhouse aesthetic. It's taking spaces and motifs and graphics and things that we know and somehow making them really ominous and threatening. I love the question mark over the exit sign. And it's really interesting because there's a bit of like conspiracy theory with this as well, because there are people who believe the backrooms are real. Some people just participate in the mythology of the backrooms just for fun. It's a fun world building experience, but there are people who believe that the backrooms are real. So it's like this water slide. Again, it has very much that 80s, horror of corporate, America, tied with, old McDonald's aesthetic, with also this liminal space, terror of never being able to leave like a never-ending office building. So just an interesting mashup of aesthetics.
I'll never see a McDonald's the same way again. Why can't breakout rooms not be cheesy and actually be like this?
Yeah, it's really, 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 really creepy. And yeah, it's really fascinating to see how much creativity has gone into imagining the levels. Because users just submit their own ideas and come up with like what the levels are. And there are so many, there are like thousands of levels. And so, yeah, it's ominous. It's like vaguely corporate. There's one level called the flower level, which is actually kind of more like cottagecore, but it's still like ominous. And there's also a sense of enclosure because almost all these spaces are closed in. You may see natural light, but you can't see what's outside. So it's really distorting your perception of reality. And speaking of distorting your perception of reality, that leads me into my next clip, which is Netflix's new show, 1899. We can watch the trailer first, and then I can do a little explanation of it.
And before I start that, from the creators of a really, really popular German show, right, called
Dark.
Dark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. It's their new show. It's the second coming of Dark, which if you've seen Dark and you're a fan, is the most wonderful thing in the world because it's a great show.
Six hours ago, we received a message. We believe this is.
You think the passengers, they're still alive? Il a coulé. C'est la seule explication possible, sinon on l'aurait retrouvé.
Vienna, Nichols.
Capitan, we paid good money for this trip. 7 days to get to New York, no detours.
Gdzie oni wszyscy są?
O Helligånd. Må vi blive bevaret fra det onde. Fra al verdens falskhed.
None of this makes any sense.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Said a joker to the thief.
Irgendetwas stimmt mit dem Schiff nicht.
There's too much confusion.
Und jetzt passiert das Gleiche hier.
I can't get no relief.
We need to take back control.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Ihr seht
sitzen auf einem Pulverfass, das kurz davor ist zu explodieren.
Todos llevamos máscara. Mientras intentamos esconder quién somos. You're not asking all the right questions. You have to wake up.
Sigur's Way. Du hast keine Ahnung, was du gemacht hast.
I know what I've seen. I'm not crazy.
What's wrong with that shit?
Okay, so just to kind of give it's hard to talk about some elements of the show without giving a lot away, so I will do my best. And also this Jezebel article encapsulates it perfectly. Please watch 1899 so we can talk about it, which speaks to a very common cultural norm, which is if no one else is binge watching the show you've binge watched, have you actually binge watched it if you can't discuss it with other people? And so, yeah, by the creators of Dark, which if you're unfamiliar was a show that dealt with time travel, changing realities, a lot of time travel philosophy. This is very much in the same thread, except it deals with our perception of reality, what is real. And this definitely ties into this cultural paranoia that we're definitely tracking and have been tracking about what is real. It's a common internet joke when anything absurd or outrageous happens to say, oh, the simulation is glitching again. Simulation theory is a huge belief and a huge part of internet culture. And also another thing that's super interesting about this show is it has so many different spoken languages in it, so many that Netflix has actually had to put out a primer because some video settings are set to the dubbed version, when actually if you hear it on the dubbed version, you don't understand the context of sometimes characters speak in different languages without being able to understand each other. So Netflix actually had to put out like a primer to say, make sure it's set to the original with English, with subtitles so you understand what they're saying without, confusing about who can understand each other. So yeah, definitely is very much aligned with the current obsession with, reality simulation, gaming, and it has this great steampunk turn of the century aesthetic. And so if you love Dark, you will definitely love this. And this is definitely what is driving my brain crazy in the best way right now. So highly, highly recommend 1899.
It's very cool. And I also love the aesthetic. I read an article about the set design and how basically the entire movie was just on this one sound stage with green screen, but it's so amazing. And I think when I was seeing a lot of the marketing months ago with all the triangle symbology and whatnot, I didn't know if it had something to do with Bermuda Triangle or what it was, but I'm on the third episode. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it to take me where I understand, but I really love it.
Yeah, it's very much meant to confuse and disorient you, and I think every episode ends on a what just happened cliffhanger.
Right.
So definitely if you're looking for something to challenge your brain this holiday season, may I recommend 1899.
Yeah, if you want some really cheerful holiday viewing, there you go.
Exactly.
It's cool. Thanks, Mallory. Appreciate it. Taryn's gonna have some really happy things, I know.
Yeah, I was about to say my links are very different than Mallory's. But hi everyone, I'm Taryn. I'm the beauty and wellness strategist here at FS. So to kick off my links, I'm actually stealing one of Mallory's popular ideas that she usually does on these. And I wanted to share some fun products from our beauty holiday launches report. So I created a Google Slides deck with a couple of my favorite trends that we saw for the holiday season. So the first trend we're seeing a lot of wellness focused holiday gift sets and collections being released to support consumers through the hectic holiday season. It's really fun to see these wellness holiday launches where beauty brands are focusing more on healing, introspection, and slowing down, which I'm sure is something that we all aim for during the holiday season, but usually feels more busy. And I know sometimes can feel overwhelming with work, family, and different obligations. So a collection that we saw from this season was this really awesome gift set from Violet FR, meant to encourage consumers to cherish themselves and check in with themselves. It's the first product on the left. But it really helps to set intentions for the upcoming new year. So the gift set includes some skincare, body products from the brand, as well as their first candle to support relaxation. But I really love the journal that they include in the kit. So it's a gratitude journal to write down your thoughts, your goals, and find positivity around you. Again, really focusing on setting positive intentions for yourself going into the holiday season and the new year, prioritizing yourself and self-love. And then for the second product I have here, it's a gift box for pregnancy and postpartum care. So women's health is a rapidly growing category that we're continuing to track at FS. So again, really interesting to see this intersection of health and wellness with really fun, joyful holiday launches. So the box includes some essential items to help consumers take care of themselves on a daily basis from the first day of pregnancy until childbirth, including postpartum and lactation. If you go to the second page, so the second trend call out, this is my favorite from the whole report, and it's something that we've seen emerging in general within beauty. So it's really fun to see how brands are incorporating the trend into holiday launches, but we've seen this rise of food-inspired beauty launches. So whether it's scent, flavor, packaging, but there's been a lot of really cool experimental beauty products incorporating food elements. So I love the partnership between Glossier and Swiss Miss. They did their best-selling Balm.com product. They created a Swiss Miss hot chocolate version of the balm with hints of rich cocoa and vanilla, and the packaging is just super cute and festive. And then cosmetic brand Too Faced launched a few different lines and products for the holiday season, inspired by different desserts and treats. So they have more traditional beauty bake shop inspired collection with different holiday cookies, but they also launched a gummy bear inspired holiday collection, which is so bright and youthful. So I thought that was really fun and unique. And yeah, that's my little teaser for our holiday launch report. I also included the link to the FS report on the site in case any subscribers are interested in looking at more of the trends and product launches. And speaking of food and the holidays, I came across this really interesting article that touches on something that we've also been researching on our team, but it speaks to how expiration dates on food aren't actually totally accurate. So the article explains how expiration dates are mostly useless when it comes to food safety, because food safety isn't the same thing as food quality. So date labels are something that arose in the 1970s when most Americans had begun to rely on grocery stores to get their food and therefore on manufacturers to know about its food freshness. But expiration dates tend to get confused with other commonly used terms like best by, sell by date, best before. And those terms insinuate that food has a definitive point of being no good anymore or being expired. But the problem is that that most expiration dates convey only information about an item's quality. There are a few exceptions, but expiration dates generally represent a manufacturer's best estimate of how long food is optimally fresh and tasty, but it's still perfectly safe to consume. But there's still a lot of misinterpretations, which leads to nearly 85% of consumers in the US at least occasionally throwing away food when it passes the label date, which means that food safe food is being discarded at an alarming rate. So this is also an issue because there's no federal oversight over labeling. They give an example in the article about how milk in Idaho can actually be sold in grocery stores more than 10 days later than the neighboring state of Montana, even though there's no major differences in quality. And just on my second link as well, this touches on a new policy that has been presented to Congress. It's called the Food Date Labeling Act of 2021, and it advocates for federally standardized date labels and would establish a dual date labeling system, which requires food labelers to choose between two phrases, best if used by to indicate food quality or used by to indicate food safety. And there's also some other good information on the page about food waste and what the act would do to help with that. But yeah, I just thought that this was very timely with the more holiday events and festivities to come, to just be mindful of best by dates and being aware of the food that we throw away.
I love that you had this. There's always so many great reports on news networks this time of year about how much further you really can get with so much food. I'm married to someone who refuses to eat it if it's a day past the best by date, which I find ludicrous. And like, you know, eggs you can literally have for weeks after what the date is on the carton, you know.
Yeah, and it's all like, there's so much misinterpretation based on what the date is, labels, what state you're in. So yeah, I thought this was really interesting because they published it right after Thanksgiving, and they had estimated, I think, 300 million pounds of food would be discarded that was still safe because it's Thanksgiving season. So yeah.
Wow, good topic. Thanks, Taryn. All right, Nico, what you got for
everyone. I'm Nico. I'm the cultural strategist on the culture team. And I wanted to show a magazine that I actually picked up this weekend. I recently moved to Brooklyn from Virginia, and I've been doing a lot of exploring, and I stumbled upon this bookstore / cafe called Dear Friend Books. They mainly specialize in like antique editions of books, but also having really niche magazines. So this is one of them that they had. And they also serve tea and kombucha, which you can only have like for here. So you can only drink it there, you can't take it out. So it kind of has like a very chill, like low technology, you can't bring your laptop kind of vibe. But anyway, I found this one, and it's actually a cultural anthropology magazine. And this is their inaugural issue. It's called Te magazine. And just to tell you a little bit about basically the central focus of the magazine, it is it's an annual bilingual publication that's published in English and Chinese. So actually, you'll see that like every article has a Chinese side and an English side. And it's mainly focused on contemporary art and cultural anthropology. So being that I'm on the culture team, this really captivated me. And within each issue, it expands on a specific theme where they invite practitioners from different realms to explore the notion of cultural flow across the globe. So that includes the status of language, customs, and the culture of diverse local communities, as well as how individual narratives are shifting due to social and environmental change and geopolitics. So the name Te is actually derived from the Hokkien pronunciation of tea, reflecting on its origins in China and its journey through the Silk Road and off to Europe. And so we're actually still using the really similar word to the very origin of tea, which is te. So it's not changed very much. And they use this concept of te to represent the fluidity of culture and its evolution over time. So this first issue is actually all about food. And if you click on editorial, they have some previews of the different articles. I have only gotten to read the first article, which was about betel nuts, which are commonly used mildly addictive substance in Asia. And one of the really interesting things that I learned about it was that its earliest use was found actually in the Neolithic era cave in the Philippines, and then it spread across Asia, and it's still used today. Another article after that, which I'm really excited to read, is all about oysters and how their shells can be used for water filtration, but also how they can be used as a building material. And the next article after that, which I'm also pretty excited to read and has a really great graphic design, is this one about food sculptures in Guangzhou, China, and how their disappearance is kind of being lost to this new fast-paced lifestyle. But overall, just really great design. I love that it's also bilingual. I've not seen very many magazines that actually have 2 languages printed for each article side by side. And also just the fact that, you know, this is a cultural anthropology magazine, and a lot of the writers are actual doctors in anthropology, but the design is so, you know, artistic and modern. So very cool.
Wow. Everyone's loving this. Always refer to Nico for beautiful books and magazines that you can find. This one's great. Thanks, Nico.
Thanks.
Great, guys. Let me just copy these 2 links. I meant to do it earlier. So mine's a little weird and offbeat, I guess you could say. And for some reason, my thing is not hyperlinked. So bear with me. I'm gonna get it up here. Okay. So I've been saving some of these images for a really long time that had to do with a John Updike thing that I found. And let me see if I can find it here. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to stop share so I can get it from my Gmail here. Actually, while we do that, Melissa, do you mind starting with your links? Are you there, Melissa?
Yeah, sure.
If you could just talk to it, give me 30 seconds and I'm going to pull up my, okay.
So hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Moylan, VP of Women's at FS. And what I would like to show you, and it's actually good that I'm going to speak to this before we see it, but it's this beautiful exhibition, but it's done through performance. And it's called Embodying Pasolini. It's currently on view in Paris. And I'm going to name off kind of the key players in it. So Tilda Swinton collaborated with fashion historian Olivier Salard. And it's all about the celebration of fashion and cinema. So the films of Pasolini. It's really beautiful. It's a performance. I think I saw that it's even like over an hour long, and we're going to show a clip of it. So it features these costume designs that by the person that styled Pasolini's film. What it's set up like, Tilda Swinton just kind of walks around like it's an atelier or a workspace, and she's trying on 40 of the designer's most influential costumes from films like Canterbury Tales. She puts on these costumes like again and again, and it's slow. And I loved what they said about it. They said the idea is to analyze what a costume is able to give and not give after a movie. So they chose to do this exhibition as a performance. It's part of a small thing that's happening in Paris. And I think it's on view for the next month or so. So if you are in Paris, I suggest to try and go see this. So
is there anything that she can't do?
I know, it's beautiful. Do you want to unmute?
Yes.
Michael, if you want to click on Susie's Instagram one more time.
Yeah.
You could click. I actually clicked on
this one.
That one's photos.
Oh.
No, the link that you clicked on before.
Yeah.
And that just takes us to Susie's Instagram where she has these clips of it. Just to see one more.
Oh,
wait.
Go to her page.
Click on Susie's. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah,
sorry.
Sorry.
I also linked to a different one, but we could just scroll down a little bit, and she has keep going. Okay, stop.
Okay. Yep.
The one kind of the middle with the black, that one.
Yeah.
Look on that one. It's really beautiful.
So stunning
idea. Yeah, it's really beautiful. I thought it was interesting kind of to position Tilda as both a performer as well as kind of a curator and putting these garments like on her, and it's really beautiful. And my next one that I have, it's also a focus on an art exhibition. And this is an artist that's based out of Brooklyn, and he's known for his kinetic sculptures and installations. This is one, it's currently on view in Brazil, and it's going to be there, I think, for the next year in different cities, if we want to unmute that. Thanks. Yeah, I thought that was so beautiful. He called it dreams that are dancing through air. There's a lot of other exhibitions that he's done in different locations, but I also particularly liked this one because I liked there's kind of this historical context that the building embodies. And in women's, we're working on our spring 24 narratives right now. We've got one coming up called Illumine, and it really resonated with that one for me. So I thought it was beautiful to share.
I love this. I love what the person says on the side, that it looks like two people trying to blend in a rhythm and sometimes falling apart and then coming close to each other. So beautiful.
Yeah, it's mesmerizing.
Wow. You got the most comments of today. Everyone's loving this. Really inspiring. Thank you very much. While I was trying to get mine up, thank you for doing that, Melissa. Okay, so let me just go into slideshow. So I came upon this earlier last year, and I've saved it all this time. I thought it would be appropriate to do it right before we all took a break for the holidays. But in 1994, John Updike did this little known book that you can actually still buy on Amazon called The 12 Terrors of Christmas. And the drawings are by Edward Gorey. And Edward Gorey is really who I want to focus on here. And I'm not sure if many of you are familiar. So before I show you what the 12 Terrors of Christmas are, I want to give a little homage to Edward Gorey and how amazing that he is. This is a autobiography that came out about him several years back called Born to Be Posthumous, and the eccentric life and mysterious genius of him. He was an illustrator, but not only that, he also did a lot of things on Broadway. He was a Tony Award-winning costume designer. He was an artist. He, of course, is most known for a lot of his illustrated books. Everyone from Tim Burton to Anna Sui. There's numerous people that have been inspired by his aesthetic over the years. He's really known for pen and ink drawings that really kind of depict vaguely unsettling narrative scenes, mostly in Victorian and Edwardian settings. He made a notable impact on the world of theater with his designs for 1977's Dracula on Broadway. He won a Tony Award for that. And also in 1980, he was well known for his animated introduction to the PBS series Mystery. So you've probably seen that intro many times over the years, not knowing that he did that. Even Vincent Price, when he welcomes people to Mystery, he says, "Welcome to the Gory Mansion." He's kind of often known as the granddaddy of goth, which is why I really love him. He once said this really great quote: "My mission in life is to make everybody as uneasy as possible. I think we should all be uneasy because that's what the world is like." And it's so true. And when people asked him about being called the granddaddy of goth, he stated, "If you're doing nonsense, it has to be rather awful because there'd be no point otherwise. I'm trying to think if there's sunny nonsense. Sunny, funny nonsense for children. Oh, how boring, boring, boring. There's no such thing as happy music, and that's true. There really isn't. There's probably no such thing as happy nonsense either." So I just wanted to include some of his drawings before I kind of jump into the John Updike collaboration that he did back in the early 90s. But you kind of get a feel for that Addams Family, goth, Tim Burton-esque inspiration here. This one's a puzzle that you can actually still find, which I think is so beautiful. But as someone who loves turn of the century aesthetics, I'm very much inspired by kind of his dark take on everything. This one here is one that I just love, called A Dull Afternoon, and it's just a grouping of these really pretty dainty Edwardian ladies tossing a skull back and forth for play. Completely random. So love him. I'm gonna put 2 links in the comments when we're done, just so you can read a New York Times article about his genius and a New Yorker article about his work, because it's really worth knowing. He only left the country one time to go to Scotland and England. Otherwise, you can actually go to the Edward Gorey House, which is in Cape Cod, and you can see a lot of his work. So this is the 12 Terrors of Christmas that he did with John Updike. It's really funny to me as someone who has a dark sense of humor. So I'm just going to show you what they are really quickly. We'll read through them. So the first Terror of Christmas is the man Santa. Loose fitting nylon beard, fake optical twinkle, cheap red suit, funny rummy smell when you sit on his lap. If he's such a big shot, why is he drawing unemployment for 11 months of the year? Something scary and off key about him, like one of those Stephen King clowns. The next one is Santa the Concept. Why would anybody halfway normal want to live at the North Pole on a bunch of shifting ice floes, or stay up all night flying around the sky distributing presents to children of doubtful deservedness? There is a point where altruism becomes sick, or else sinister cover-up for an international scam. A man of no plausible address with no apparent source for his considerable wealth comes down the chimney after midnight while decent law-abiding citizens are snug in their beds. Is this not at least cause for alarm? Of course, he focuses on the elves. Again, what is really going on here? Why do these purported elves submit to sweatshop conditions in what must be one of the gloomiest climates in the world, unless they are getting something out of it at their expense? Underclass masochism one day, bloody rebellion the next. The rat-a-tat-tat of tiny hammers may just be the beginning. This one's my favorite illustration, called O Tannenbaum. Suppose that the tree topples over under its weight of bomb-shaped baubles. Suppose it harbors wood borers which will migrate to the furniture. There's something ghastly about a tree. Its look of many-limbed paralysis, its shaggy and conscienceless aplomb, encountered in the open, let alone in the living room. At night, you can hear its rustling and slurping water out of the bucket. Reindeer, the hooves that cut through roof shingles like linoleum knives, unstable flight patterns suggesting to at least one observer dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, fur possibly laden with disease-bearing ticks. Electrocution, it's not just the frayed strings of lights anymore, or the corridor transformer of the plucky little Lionel. It's all those battery packs, those electronic games, those built-in dictionaries, those robots, a sizzle with artificial intelligence. Even the tinsel tingles this year. And isn't it somehow terrible the way shed tinsel shivers in the gloomy ice-clogged gutters? Love the prose. The carols, they boom and chime from the vaulted ceilings of supermarkets and discount malls, and yet the spirits keep sinking. Have our hearts grown so terribly heavy since childhood? What has happened to us? Why don't they ever play our favorites? What were our favorites? Tum to tum tum, angels on high, something something sky. The specials on TV, of course, he speaks to that. We'd rather just watch the Easter parade. Fear of not giving enough. This one's a great illustration too. Leads to dizziness in shopping malls, foot fractures on speeded up escalators, thumb and wrist sprain, eye and facial injuries in cartoon crowded buses, and fluttering sensations of disorientation and imminent impoverishment. The fear of not receiving enough leads to anxious scanning of UPS deliveries and to identity crisis on Christmas morning as the piles of rumpled wrapping paper and emptied boxes mount higher around every chair but your own. 3 dull neckties and a pair of flannel-lined work gloves. Is this really how they see you? 11, fear of returns, the embarrassments, the unseemly haggling, the lost receipts, the allegations of damaged goods, the humiliation descent into mercantilism's boiler room. And finally, the dark. Oh, how early it comes now, how creepy and green in the gills everyone looks, scrambling along in drab winter wraps by the phosphorus light of department store windows, full of styrofoam snow, mock-ups of a facetious 1890, and beige mannequins posed with false jauntiness in plaid bathrobes. Is this hell or just an upturn in consumer confidence? So those are the 12 terrors of Christmas. I love them. You should buy them if you want a really cute conversational collectible, but definitely check out Edward Gorey's work. I'm going to put those articles here for you now so you can check them out, but they're the 2 articles. So love that. All right, and then I think we're going to close out today's webinar with Nia. Hi, Nia.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nia Silva. I'm the materials director at FS. So for my first link, I wanted to share something materials related, and I came across this really cool initiative from Boucheron, and it actually released a few months back, but this is the first time I was coming across it. So they actually released a capsule collection highlighting Cofolite, which is a black stone-like material derived from the depollution of asbestos, which really caught me by surprise. I know we've all heard of, the dangers of asbestos in products or in homes and how toxic it can be. It can cause mesothelioma and different cancers. It's been regulated in the US, but not banned. And I actually didn't know it's part of a group of 6 naturally occurring minerals. So Boucheron's aim was to come up with an innovative solution to use this material that would otherwise be, of course, super hazardous, but then render it into a safe substance and use it in a more sustainable way. A quote from the article here reads that they like the idea of using materials that are already there, that we don't know what to do with. It's never about creating things just for the sake of it. There has to be a meaning behind it. So in general, just really cool to see these luxury brands rethinking what, precious materials can be. We've seen an uptick in lab-grown diamonds, diamonds made from captured CO2 from the atmosphere. In reports, we've even highlighted gold that can be sourced from electronic waste. So in general, just this really interesting shift, I think we can continue to track for, jewelry especially.
They're so beautiful.
Right? Really stunning. Of course, very expensive, but really interesting. So then for my second link, it's a bit of an early confirmation of our SS24 design aesthetic divine, which highlighted a return to elegance and elevated aesthetics. So the link here is of Bacchanalia, which is a super flamboyant new restaurant that just opened in London in Mayfair. And the restaurant features artworks from Damien Hirst and even 2,000-year-old artifacts. So just to give you a bit of historical background, Bacchanalia was an ancient Roman festival of excess where Romans would eat, drink, and pleasure themselves, all in the name of Bacchus, which was the god of wine and pleasure. So pulling from that background, you of course get the name for the restaurant, but also this whole design approach that you're seeing here in the images. I think if you scroll down too, there's a short video, that you can play, Michael, where you can see, But yeah, so super, super, elaborate. You can see the sculptures hanging from the ceilings, those floor to ceiling painted murals. There's lots of marble. They said that the menu is going to be like a mix between Italian and Greek, of course, but really elevated. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be an instant hit. I saw in the chat someone's already booked to go. So really, really interesting if you guys can check it out.
I agree with Nico. It was giving me White Lotus vibes, especially like with the statues.
Right? Yeah.
If you guys are not watching season 2 of White Lotus set in Sicily, season finale next Sunday, you must start right away. I feel like it's loads better than season 1, and I liked season 1. Yeah, I can hear the same theme song too. It also reminds me of the movie from the 90s with Keanu Reeves called Devil's Advocate, which kind of had this kind of evil, like little vibe too. There was a lot of this kind of aesthetic. So beautiful. I think those are all of our links for 2022, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us every month this year. We love doing these webinars. Hopefully you will join us next year as well. Again, remember that new time starting in January on the 4th at 11 a.m. Eastern time instead of 12. Hope you all have a great holiday season. Try to take a breath when you get a chance. I know December is busy for everyone, but enjoy a break if you get one, and have a wonderful Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year. We'll see you next year, everybody. Bye.